Today has been such a beautiful day and honestly kind of a wholesome day that I've had in, I wouldn't say a while, but it's always nice to kind of have wholesome days when you meet up with a friend and you're kind of working together at a cafe. I really enjoy that just because I work remotely. So sometimes, I am more isolated in that regard. And I guess this little intro ties in perfectly into what I really wanted to speak about today, which is loneliness comes in waves, and it's something that I have found, and honestly I have been experiencing in the last 7 years of moving to the EU and different phases and different transitions. And it's always so interesting to me, I have to say, that it's not something that is constant, yet something that shows up once in a while or perhaps once a year. I don't know. Obviously, everyone is different in that regard, but something that is not necessarily going to stick around for a very long time. I find that sometimes the contrast of loneliness is quite confusing, and I don't want to say very comfortable, in the aspect that one day you feel quite disconnected, let's say you're a bit off, and then the other day you are totally back, up and running to speed and quite happy and feeling, let's say, very high on life in many different ways. Last week, Saturday, I woke up kind of frustrated, where I couldn't really understand what I was exactly feeling. And I was very happy that I actually took a day to myself to just kind of get to know myself a little bit more, of really trying to figure out why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And in conclusion, I figured out that I was having a day and, let's say, a moment of feeling pretty lonely, of just kind of the life transition that I'm currently going through with having moved to a new place, etc., of just having a day where I was feeling more down, and embracing it, because I'm not gonna bum around and put my negativity on other people, but also realizing and acknowledging the fact that I was just going to feel like this for a day, and I knew that the next day I was going to be completely back to myself, if quote unquote, if I can say that, of just not feeling, down, not feeling confused or lonely in that regard. I'm sure that everyone has heard the saying, or once before, that you can be surrounded by hundreds or thousands or millions of people and yet still feel pretty lonely. I have definitely been in rooms with many people and have felt quite disconnected in the regard of just not genuinely connecting with anyone. I know for a fact that you can be in a relationship and still feel alone sometimes. Also, there are, let's say, moments of nostalgia in the regard of, reflecting onto your old life and perhaps missing and feeling alone during a new transition or a new, let's say, life that you are currently in. I find that loneliness, or the term alone, is something that gets a negative rep. I don't mean to communicate this or, share or talk about this in a depressive aspect. That's absolutely not what I'm doing, but more in the aspect of just acknowledging that loneliness is an emotion that can happen from time to time, just like we feel angry and sad and happy from time to time. We're not perfect all the time and not happy all the time. And so just kind of giving the topic of loneliness a moment to shine, and also just kind of showing that it's not something that's weird. It's not something that is not common. If anything, I really do find and believe that perhaps it's something that more people should speak about, because every single person has felt alone or lonely at one moment in their life, even if they live in their hometown or whether they live on the other side of the world, move to a new place, start in a new job, etc. Also, I love that I always do little hand motions. I watch myself in this camera, but not to get off topic. When it comes to loneliness, us as humans, it is psychologically proven that we crave connection. We crave, social interactions, the aspect of feeling understood and wanting to build deeper connections in that regard, of essentially building kind of like a nest, if we can put it into that term. And circling it into the aspect of being understood, a lot of times when we meet people, it's very surface level. The, let's say, moments of actually having a profound connection with someone and finding, let's say, a deep connection with someone or being able to build a friendship or a relationship is something that is not so common. I'm sure that, if you're listening to this, you can also agree to that. I would say that in the last 7 years of moving to the EU, I have felt loneliness in many different phases of everything that I have lived up to this point. I remember when I moved to Denmark, one, I was literally a child. And two, it was so interesting to me for the first time in my life. I was, let's say, completely stripped away from everything that was comfortable to me, everything that I had a profound connection with. And I remember calling my mom and crying of just saying that I feel so alone. I feel like other people are not understanding me. It's hard to, let's say, navigate a new city when, one, I'm lost, and two, of course, there's nothing, let's say, that kind of connects me to it. In that sense, obviously, I have my dad's family who lives there, which is a huge help, but nonetheless, not from the same cultural background. I also find it so interesting of how loneliness also really kind of creeps up to you in different transitions or phases of your life. For myself, I would say that it's not a constant feeling, but most definitely something that comes in waves. Just, now being in a new phase of my life, kind of in a very weird transition limbo time of just having days where I feel super high on life, really grateful for being surrounded by so many wonderful people and thriving. And then, of course, other days where perhaps I'm feeling a bit more misunderstood or like I'm lacking connection in that aspect. Nothing is perfect at the end of the day, and no friendship is gonna be perfect. But at least for myself, figuring out what it is that really means a lot to me and what I genuinely look for, especially in the aspect of wanting to not feel alone. The other day, on Saturday, like I mentioned, the day that I was a bit frustrated and kind of figured out that I was feeling lonely, I decided to spend the day with myself to just kind of internalize my thoughts. And it was really nice because I actually ended up going to a museum with myself where I just kind of browsed. I had wanted to go there for quite a while. So it was nice to kind of finally check that off my list. And in my experience, when you are, let's say, in a transition of feeling lonely, it also really forces you to learn how to be independent. Obviously, we learn all the time in life. There are always going to be different situations that teach you something new. But I remember specifically when I moved to Denmark, it really forced me to kind of get over my fears of doing things on my own. And I would literally ride around Copenhagen on my bike for hours and just kind of accept and feel very uncomfortable with the fact that I was alone wandering around. But also, I would say that I learned tremendously how to be with myself and also valuing my time with myself. I find it really cute how I catch myself when I am busy or being very social and just having dinner with a friend like I did last week Thursday. I come home and it really lights me up. And I find it so nice, honestly, kind of in a different aspect of just really being able to be grateful for social interactions, and just small things really go a long way, because when you are, let's say, more isolated in that regard, you don't necessarily remember how it is to be social on a day-to-day basis in that sense of having colleagues. Small interactions really go such a long way because it kind of lights this part of yourself where you're like, oh, wow, like people are nice, like this is really nice, this means a lot to me that someone is wanting to talk to me or genuinely asking how I'm doing, etc., having a meaningful conversation. I find that loneliness is also not specifically tied to, let's say, a certain time in your life. In my opinion, and things that I have heard from friends and family members, etc., is that it really shows up in different points of your life. I was talking to a family friend the other day who had a baby a year ago, and she was sharing with me that she feels quite isolated in her life and that she is wanting to make more mom friends, etc., but it is a very scary kind of thing to do. I think the important thing to remind yourself and important to remind everyone is that you can be 15 in high school and feel super lonely. You can be 25 have just starting a new career in a new company and feeling also very lonely. You can be in your 30s, a first-time mom, and feel very incredibly lonely. And you can also be in your 50s or 60s, 70s, 80s, 100 and also feel lonely. And so it's not necessarily that it is, let's say, pinpointed to one age bracket or one specific transitional phase of your life, but with each and every single one of us who has gone through different experiences and perhaps have, looked at things differently. I just want to highlight that you're not alone in that sense. On Saturday, when I was feeling kind of sad and alone, I texted a friend and I told her, I was like, I'm just having a day where I'm feeling kind of alone. And she was so sweet and honestly so kind of just like, I'm sorry, I know exactly how you feel. Please feel free to call or text me whenever, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes, I'm very communicative, and so everything I think I kind of need to say. But if you're not, obviously you do you. But of just also being okay with the fact to share with other people what you're feeling. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and you're most definitely not the only person who's kind of feeling like that or going through a transitional phase of feeling alone. And to close off this episode, I really wanted to just do 2 little reflection questions that I am going to answer myself. And then if you got this far, you can hopefully answer them yourself. Whether you're with someone or, answer it in your head, you do you. The first question is, when do I feel the most lonely and what is actually missing in that moment? For myself, that's a really good question. I would say that I feel the most lonely at the moment in my life when I am lacking daily social interactions. For example, having colleagues. I think that's something that I kind of took for granted beforehand. And I was talking to a friend today that I met up with that we always kind of want what we don't have and always don't necessarily appreciate everything that we do have in the moment. I'm not complaining. Just, for example, social contact. That's why I like to go to cafes and work and stuff. I do not like to stay home because it does not do well for my mental health. The second question is, do I feel lonely because I'm alone or because I don't feel understood? I am most definitely not alone. I feel very blessed in my life, but sometimes I do feel like I am not fully understood. I think that definitely goes in the regard of making new friendships or, being in a transitional phase of my life where I am kind of, let's say, rebuilding many things. It's not, of course, that other people are bad people, absolutely not, but there is sometimes, let's say, a lack of disconnect. We only can relate to that we have experienced, and a lot of times, sometimes people don't necessarily understand us because they have not gone through the same things that we have or are going through, and that's not to put someone else down or put yourself down, but just kind of a fact. Get to know yourself a bit more and reflect on things that hopefully can make you stronger as an individual and, progress, keep moving forward. But thank you for listening.